Good morning, guys. So I meant to start this at home, completely lost track of time. Things got a little busy. I was pretty much nonstop this morning, but it is officially time for Mr. Moo's follow-up appointment with the geneticist. So Shawn, who's leaning in the door there, met us here. This time around, we did not have to travel across the state for it because each of the specialists tend to take turns rotating where they come out to this end of the state where they hold a specialty clinic at one of the offices out here. And he is very chatty. So that is what this guy, if I remember right, he comes out quarterly. And so this was the time we were able to get into him. And then a month from now is when we see the neurologist, who I think she said she comes out monthly, but she wanted to see Micah at 3 months rather than at 2, otherwise I'd be seeing her right now as well. So there's that, guys. We got to get inside though, because we're going to end up being late, and I will update you guys as soon as we get out of there and figure out what all was said. Should we go inside?
Yes.
Okay, guys, well, we're done with the appointment. I'm actually without a kid now, since Shawn met us here and he was pretty much done with the work he needed to do today. Micah's one request afterwards was to ride with Dad. So we both decided it didn't hurt anything. And then that way I could sit here and do this without his constant interruptions, because lately he's gotten pretty loud when he knows that I've got the camera on. So just makes it a little easier. Okay. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything, and I knew that would happen a little bit. The bulk of it is we don't truly know anything we didn't already know. It is still listed as a gene candidate. What I did learn is that the company that they send the testing to that flagged the candidate, they're the ones who flagged it. It wasn't the doctor or anything. And that is where it sits. It's not that this became more official than before or anything. He said it was a spelling error. Then he kind of referred to it as a broken spot in this particular gene. And there's very little known yet. But what he did say, and I think this is where the genetic counselor was sharing some of the stuff with me, was that because the company flagged it as a gene candidate, it means that it is something that they've seen before. And I don't know, apparently in the first time or two that it's seen, it's not really flagged, but there's nothing specific yet. And it sounds like yearly or something, they check back in. This company will then tell them if there were more mutations in that particular gene identified, and if so, then they give contact information so the doctors can come together, go over notes, and see how different people are presenting. He said that if they have a bunch of people who test positive for this particular mutation but present completely normal, like it's just a random mutation that doesn't seem to affect anything for that person, it'll actually basically zero it out, and they'll decide that it's not the cause. But it doesn't sound like that's what's happening at this point. And he mentioned a couple other cases that, you know, we'd kind of keep a side eye on, but those ones, so de novo is when there's no other family connection with it, because they tested mine and Shawn's DNA. And Micah's mutation is de novo. There is another mutation in that same gene that has a family link that's linked to thyroid cancer. I guess like there's a whole family somewhere that have the same mutation and a prevalence of thyroid cancer within the family. But he said that was something that everybody will keep like on the back burner, because the youngest case that was identified in that family was 17. And he said that's a ways down the road. It's nothing we'd start watching for now, but until we know more about this mutation. All of that said, way back when we did the testing, they also did metabolic testing. At that time, there was one thing that came back as slightly elevated. At that time, we were told that by itself, they don't worry about it because false positives happen. If there were other results that had come back elevated or positive as well, then they would be looking for different things. Now today, he acknowledged that same thing, but what he also told me, or told us, after looking at Micah, somehow he had somewhat forgotten or missed the fact that Micah has a double toe and a double tooth and some other physical markers. And I somehow he had kind of missed that. I think he was in too much of a hurry. He had a student with him back in March when we met. I don't really know. Either way, now today, he has decided to rerun the portion of the metabolic panel. You guys will have to forgive me. I got something that's irritating my eye for some reason. But he's repeating the portion of the metabolic panel for that particular test. I don't remember exactly what it was, but apparently that being elevated, he said we'll repeat the test, and then they're going to also, they're sending in orders to do an ultrasound of Micah's kidneys, because I guess there is a condition which he said, given the physical markers and that elevated number, if they find any sign of cysts in his kidneys, or if that number is elevated again, it could indicate, and I don't remember the name that he told us because it's not official or anything. And he said that there's a really high chance that's not it, but he just wants to rule things out. Whatever this condition is, it does have a long-term impact on their kidneys. And half of the case, or a majority of the case, no, I think he said 15 to 35%. Guys, there were so many numbers thrown around. But anyhow, these cases that they're not linked to any specific mutation. They don't know what causes it yet, but it is diagnosed off of these other factors, whether or not there's cysts in the kidneys, this elevated metabolic screening, and physical features. Because Micah had 2 out of 3 already, that's why we're repeating the metabolic, which they drew blood today, and then they're going to do the ultrasound, so that way we can be solid on that. So again, we're gonna have more and more updates. At this point too, we're gonna do yearly follow-ups. He said sometimes they would stretch it out to 2, but because of the nature of his case and the developmental stage he's at, if they see him yearly, then they'll keep an eye on everything. They'll double check all of the literature and everything that's been put out in the previous year, so that way they can present that to us each year. And then if there's been any major changes with Micah, then we can address those at that time too. Because like the leg tremors and stuff that he has experienced over the summer, he did have another one here about 2 weeks ago. And he said those can be a sign of, start with an M, myoclonic seizures. I don't think that's quite right, but either way, it can be a type of very localized seizure, which actually would not show in the EEG apparently. And then I'm very anxious to talk to the neurologist in a month, because he mentioned that there was actually some swelling behind everything in the MRI, but that everything was still fine, and then they had told us everything was fine. So guys, I really don't know. I'm working on that, but that's where we're at. We're gonna get the ultrasound done. They're not gonna be able to send those orders till tomorrow because of the whole travel back and forth thing. So when they get back to Sioux Falls, they will, I guess they have to print the orders because they don't have access to printers here. It was really kind of weird. And then they have to fax the orders to places around here and see who can get him in to do this ultrasound on his kidneys. And that we should get results, back pretty quickly, because they're pretty much red as they're doing it. But we'll know if he has cysts on his kidneys, and if it is, then that'll point towards this other thing, and then we'll probably have another follow-up with the geneticist even sooner, because that could mean a secondary diagnosis is happening as well. So guys, anyhow, that is what I've got. It's a lot and not a lot all at the same time, and I kind of feel like that's the theme of this journey. but it's okay, because like he said today too, we all wish we had a more solid answer, but sometimes no answers are good because it means we are not looking at any of the really major detrimental things that they could be diagnosing. So I am going to take that as a blessing and as a win, and the rest we will learn when it's time. The answers will be here when we need to have them. That's the way we're going to look at it. And in the end, God has got all of this. Guys, I hope that you're having a blessed day. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss everything else coming up next. And I'll see you in the next one.